Well, hey, friends, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to find freedom in both their life and in their business. I own a multi-7-figure-a-year coaching business. I'm also a certified life coach. So I have the honor of helping thousands of women every single month make money in the online space and help them to get unstuck from whatever is holding them back, all without sacrificing their faith or their family. In this show, you're going to get the very best life and business advice, always with a healthy dose of Jesus. So buckle in, my friend. I'm so excited that you are here. Well, hey there, friends. It's Jennifer. This is podcast episode number 290, and I'm here with Nell Stortz. Hello, Nell.
Hello.
I haven't talked to you in so long.
She means about 5 minutes. So one of my claims to fame in life is that I was on your podcast years ago, episode 89.
Yes, and there are going to be people that remember that. Was it episode number 89?
It really was. And it's still one of the top 10 years.
Yes.
Oh, this should have been 289.
This should have been 289. What were we thinking? Yeah, that's why we wanted to redo this, because the podcast that you and I did years ago is still one in the top 10 downloads of any podcast I've ever done. And I've done a whole lot, because not only have I done 289, this is 290, but we also had all those Monday fires. So I've done at least another 100 and 150 past that. So congratulations on being one of my people's most fantastic, most well-loved guests. Also, Nell works for me full time.
Yeah. I would say I'm a totally different person. So at the time I was just running, a business. I had a brick and mortar. I did vendor shows, and through a lot of great events and, happenings of the Lord, I am now, your director of sales and marketing. I work for you full time.
And have been for several years now. So I love having you, and I'm so glad that you are here. All right. So let's talk about what's happening right now in terms of vendor markets, because even though you work for me full time, you and your mom still love to do vendor markets. You still are very knowledgeable about what's going on in that world. And there's been a lot of shifts in the world in general in the last couple of years, which has definitely affected vendor markets as well. So that's what I want to chat about today, which is just kind of almost like a redo of, podcast episode number 89, if you will. So
awesome.
Tell us about some of the updates that you have now from the last time that you were here, as far as what are the trends that you're seeing with vendor shows right now? And do you maybe want to tell people what you do at your vendor shows and why you kind of have some knowledge in this area?
Sure. So I have been doing vendor shows for 12 years. So it's been, so it's long enough to see different shifts, right? Because we're talking about the economy, there's ebbs and flows, right? Yeah. So when you've been doing something, that long, over 10 years, I would say you've seen some ebbs and you've seen some flows. So I feel like I've seen the spectrum of it. So we started doing high school shows, local church shows. We now do just vintage market days, which are high-end vendor markets. Okay. And that's the only ones we do. Yep. And we used to do 30 a year, and now we do about 12 or 15 a year. So if you go back and listen to episode 89, there's a couple of number things that I kind of give you. And after 12 years of doing this, I can still say that most of those are pretty accurate. Things like, the goal is that I still shoot for 8 to 10 times my rent at a show. So if I spent $600 on the show, then my goal is to make at least $6,000. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it's a lot more, but that's just the goal. So that's still a pretty standard that I see you can still do. The second
Love
thing,
that formula, because that's the whole price of listening to this podcast right now.
Awesome. Well, because a lot of times people will go to a show, a little small show at a church, and it was a $50 entrance fee, and they're like, well, I didn't make very much money. And I'm like, the entrance fee really does help you predict what you can make.
Okay. That's such a good tip.
And then another one is you should take 3 times the number, the amount of product that you want to sell. Because what happens is, people are like, well, I want to make X number of dollars. And it's well, add up everything in your booth. Does it add up to that much? Because if it doesn't, you can't sell it. But also you can't have nothing left at the end. Right. So we used to do this one show, and there was these people that sold dogs across from us. They sold
live dogs?
French bulldogs and English bulldogs. These dogs were $2,500. Okay. These were and people would come, this guy came from, I think he came from Missouri, somewhere like that.
Okay.
And
we like bulldogs around here.
And he came to Texas, and he would sell these dogs.
Okay.
And we always joked about the last bulldog phenomenon. So like these bulldogs would fly, but when there was one bulldog left, that bulldog wasn't going anywhere. It was the last bulldog.
Really?
And so we always joke in your booth, like you don't want the last bulldog phenomenon. Like you need enough stuff left in your booth. Cause think about it, like if you went to Walmart and there was like one loaf of bread left, you'd be like, what's wrong with that loaf of bread?
Is it stale?
I don't want that
see
one.
Mold on it. Right.
And so your booth has to look full the whole weekend. Okay. So if you want to sell $10,000 worth of stuff, you need to bring close to $30,000 worth of stuff.
Wow. Okay.
At least 20, like at least double. Cause think about like, you don't want all your shelves empty on Sunday because no one's going to buy your stuff. No one's going to stop anymore. Like you have to look full the entire time. So those two numbers I would say are still now. Did those go up and down around the pandemic time? Yes. Like, right when we came back, people were excited to spend. And then lately people are a little bit more scared to spend. So some of those numbers are shifting, but if you look holistically, year after year after year, that's still pretty consistent.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think you should trademark the bulldog phenomenon. That's amazing. But then, okay, so tell us like what happened kind of since you're talking about the pandemic, like let's talk about what kind of has happened, in terms of shows, from 2020 on.
Yeah. Yes. So right when it happened, obviously everything was closed. And even in Texas, we were shut down for 6 months, which I could not believe because, we're in Texas.
You've been pretty open. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But right when it happened, we were closed. And so many of my friends that are, show friends, because, we travel the country together and have for many, many years. And so many of them were like, I should have started that website. I should have started that email list. I should have had another.
And do you know my boss?
Yes. I'm like, we have who I work for, right?
Exactly. Yes. We know somebody that can help.
Some of my vendor friends are definitely clients of ours.
Yay.
And run through our programs and everything. So, anyway, like that was a big deal because that thing shut down. And if you didn't have another plan, and I'm even also like in a vendor mall, but that closed. So if you didn't have something online, you were really struggling. So I think one of the things that is a shift is people are realizing, okay, this is a great market. Like vendor shows and once they open back up, people started spending money again. Yeah. They were excited to get out. Like all of that was good, right. But still, I think people have learned you've got to do something else besides just physical brick and mortar.
So there was so much, awful things that came out of like the 2020 and the pandemic and COVID and all things. But I think one of the good things is that it really did support what we've been trying to teach people here for a lot of years, which is just that there is a better way of making money as a business owner. It is in the online space because guess what never shuts down, or at least hasn't yet, the internet.
The internet.
Yeah. So this is a really great time for me just to plug our course that we launch twice a year, which is called the Better Way Program. Nell and Jenna and I, we have the 8-week long course that teaches you 8 different ways of making money in the online space. So if you only have one way of making money right now, get on the wait list. It's at betterwayprogram.com. And we'll just send you information as soon as we open up again. So notice that seamless plug right there. I mean,
there you go. That was
you teed me up so well.
Way to go.
Almost, it's like we're professionals or something.
Like we've done this.
All right. So talk about this now. So the economy, 2020 and 2021 are obviously behind us, praise God. But now the economy's got some, it's got some loosey-goosey stuff going on with it. So tell me how fairs are doing right now, or how do they do normally when the economy is wavering? Because in your 12 years, you've seen a lot, like you said.
Yeah. And like I said, so the two biggest things so right now, is some of these, I would say holistically for the year, it's down a little bit, but that goes back to, you have to be in it for the long haul. If you're going to do it, you've got you can't do one show and be like, oh, I made us so much money. This is going to be it. I quit my job. Or you can't do and have a bad show and be like, this is it. I'm done. You have to be in it for a while. And so that's my second tip to that though. I'm the numbers girl.
Yeah, I know you are.
Pay yourself a consistent amount regardless of how the show does. And this is so hard, but I think this is good for all business, right?
100%. We just got somebody new in our mastermind this week that has said, one of her goals for being in our mastermind is figure out how to pay herself. And her business is very profitable. And I'm like, whoa. Wait, the whole reason you're in business is so that you can take money from it, so you can pay yourself. So I guess I didn't realize that at vendor shows, people are not doing that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I think people, and cause especially when it is your side job or a side hustle versus your job. But if you ever wanted to make it your business or make it your career, it's if you have a good show, let's go out to eat and let's, do something fun. Right. And if you have a bad show, it's we barely paid the bills. But if you if you're in it for the long haul, then it's pay yourself consistently. So every show you get X number of money and the rest goes into your business, whether it's business savings, whether it's, there's so many good books out there,
really
Profit
good.
First. There's a lot of good things out there, but the key is I think that's how a lot of businesses sustain through wavering economies is that kind of consistency. It's like when it's booming, yay, but you can't spend it all. Like
and it's biblical. I mean, the Bible talks about look at the ants. They store up in the summer so they have something to eat in the winter. And so, that's a really, really good example. So, all right, give us some basic, always must do's for all vendors, at every show. Give us your top couple of things where you're at every show, this is what needs to happen.
Okay, so I think I have 4 of these. So the first one is gather email addresses.
Yes.
No matter how you do it. I honestly don't care if you are as old school as it gets and you've got a notebook on your counter and you're like, hey, we put your email address so I can make sure to, check in with you. Because a lot of, especially at vendor shows, people want that really close connection. You're buying this, vintage piece, or you're buying something that has a story, or you're buying something you made. And so people love that they get to know you and they don't mind. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Now, if you want to do a QR code where they scan it, you want to do a $10, a 10% coupon, anything. But if you're like, I can't do any of that, if nothing else, have a cute little clipboard, have a notebook, have them write their name and email. It's kind of like a bed and breakfast. You know how you have the guest book? People love to do the guest book. It's kind of like that. It's real. It's kind of colloquial. Good. It's kind of local,
Oh, now I'm sitting here thinking of our house in Florida and our guest book. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not collecting emails. Breaking my own rules. I know better.
You could be collecting emails. And then you're like, you could email all the people who have been there and say, hey, we have an open week.
Oh my gosh, Nell's blowing my mind over here with information. Now I'm taking notes on my own podcast. Good thought. Okay, how do people do a QR code? Because I know I'll get a DM on Instagram and some people say, wait, Nell said do a QR code, but I don't know how to do that.
So you do need some way. It's it can even be a Google form or anything. It can be official opt-in and MailChimp. If you want to learn how to do all these things, we teach you all of this, by the way, in the Better Way program.
Yes, absolutely we do. Yes.
I have learned all of these things and I mean, I teach them now. And so, but anyway, you could do a Google form, you could do an opt-in on MailChimp, and then there's free QR code makers. So basically you just Google free QR code.
Okay.
And you put in a website and it gives you a code and you print it, sit it out, and people use the camera on their phone. It scans it, it opens it up. You're good to go. So that's the first one. Make sure you're gathering email addresses.
Okay. Perfect.
And then I'm going to follow it up with make sure you send people an email, but that's marketing 201. We're just at 101. Start by gathering the emails.
Yes.
Okay. Next is have people follow you on social. Pick at least one platform. We suggest 2 because you never know what's going to happen. Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, have people follow you.
Yes.
And, once again, you can give a free gift or a discount if they show that they followed you. But say, hey, I would love to be able to show you next time I get a piece like this. Or, we have the next season of our signs coming out or whatever it is. Have them follow you on social. So
if they follow you on social and you are selling things online, like we always suggest that people do, in addition to, having a vendor show, which is another way of doing it, then you're able to send them, hey, guess what? We're putting this in a cool bundle and you get 3 for the price of 2 for Black Friday or what have you. And so that's great. As long as they're following you on social, they can see that, or if you have their email. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. Next one is make sure to tell people how else they can work with you outside of the show. Cause the shows we do are twice a year in a location. So we're traveling across the country, across Texas, whatever. But give people what else can they do? You do a live sale every, once a month at the first of the month. Maybe you have services. So if you're selling furniture, maybe you do custom design services. I have a friend who makes barn doors. And so they get all of their barn door clients from shows. So at shows they have just some furniture and stuff, but they're we'll build you custom barn doors. So whatever it is that you can do outside of the show, make sure you're communicating that with customers. Cause there's some time in the checkout, when you're say, hey, did you know we also do this, or we do design services, or whatever it is that you do outside of shows, make sure you're really sharing that and communicating that when you're face to face with all these customers.
Awesome.
Last one. Well, and this kind of ties them all together. Just make sure you're developing a relationship outside of just that show.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm here to see you, especially if you go back to shows, people will come, like, you're going to get,
because you're kind of a legend in this arena, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Allegedly. People adore Nell, allegedly.
But you do meet people and have customers for a long time. And so as long as you're developing that relationship, then if there is a pivot or a shift that needs to be made, or when it is time to launch something outside of the shows, you've already developed that relationship and you're not coming out of like left field and they don't even know who you are.
Okay. So, I love that. Anything else that like people that are, the show owners, the vendor people, anything else that they should be doing? Give us some other thoughts. What else should the show owners
should have another revenue stream besides just selling in person. That is the key. Just having something else. So I have a few, you're the best at this. You're so good at ideas of what people could do, but I have learned from you. So I wrote down a couple.
Thank you. So, well, and the only reason I'm good at it is because I did it. And if somebody, let me just say this real quick in case somebody listens to this podcast that doesn't actually follow me and listen to Jennifer Allwood Show, but they just are one of Nell's groupies and fans. So I started out by owning a painting company in Kansas City. And then eventually I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make these little videos and I'm going to sell them online. And then, so that was another revenue stream, still in the same topic, still in the same, genre. And then I was like, you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to start like a monthly group called Paint Finish of the Month. And then I was like, you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to do like a 4-week course for people that don't want a monthly group. So, and then I had a blog about painting where I'd make ad revenue. And then I was an affiliate for the painting company. So I made affiliate income, and you'd be shocked at like, you know how when you go to Target and you're like, how did that just add up to $236? OMG. Because you're like, I didn't think it was, that's the same thing happens with your revenue streams. Even if you're like, well, I'm only making $70 off Amazon affiliates, or I've only got 27 people who are in my, monthly group or whatever. When you have more than one revenue stream, they all add up like bada boom, bada bing. So, okay. Now I want your example.
And then when you really need to, you can lean into one of those more than
100%. Yes.
So, and these are kind of just based on some of the people that I know that I do shows with. So like, let's say you sell kids clothes. Okay. You could do a subscription box where every season you send the next size, so like there's a ton of young moms who come to these kind of shows and they buy the cute little baby clothes. Well, in 4 months, you could send them a box with the fall clothes and the next size up, and so that could be for a year, they could buy a year.
Can I just tag on to that real quick now? Because in the Better Way program, we have an entire, I know Nell's looking at me, giving me the thumbs up like, yes, we have an entire training from Sarah Williams, who is a subscription box queen. She sends out over 3,000 boxes every month to people that are in like her, they get t-shirts, jewelry, etc. So, subscription boxes are really a thing. And that's just another reason to go get on the wait list, betterwayprogram.com, because that's in there. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So like same thing, if you have a t-shirt, if you have any kind of like graphic tees, any of that kind of stuff, you could do in a subscription box.
Yes.
So another one is if you sell like vintage pieces or, because so many people are pickers. Do you know what a picker,
Well, I feel like my boys are pickers. My son,
they kind of are. Yeah.
Noah came into the house this morning. Now, he doesn't live at home with us anymore. Nell and I have both launched a child. So he comes in and he's kind of looking like a homeless kid. He's got on like a 1974 NASCAR t-shirt with rips in it. He's got on pants that have paint all over them. And literally that's what my uniform was when I owned a painting company, and shoes that are like 1989 New Balances or something. And he was like, look at this fit, Mom. And I'm like, son, you and your whole vintage vibe. I can't even, but it is so popular with people right now. Yes. And those are the people that are like thrifting and picking and they literally, my boys belong to different sites where people have vintage clothes, like what you're talking about. And sometimes they'll just be like, we're doing a blowout where like you can get a bag of large t-shirts. It's a variety bag for $25 and there's 5 shirts and we have no idea what's going to be in it. People are loving those things.
Yeah.
They're loving them.
So any kind of like group you can do with that. Membership you can do with that. You can do a live sale once a month. If you can do something where if you're really knowledgeable in the area, can you do a membership where you like help people price things? So like you have a ton of knowledge because you've been picking for so long. Really you can help people price their things. So, like a service, any kind of membership course, any kind of consulting that you can do, all of these things we teach. You can grow your blog, because if you're finding really cool pieces, or if you have a really neat way to make something, like say you make furniture, you could do a course on furniture making, your particular kind of furniture making. So then you're hitting the people that want to buy it, and you're having this digital course online. So courses, memberships, consulting, one-on-one coaching, all of the things are the things that we teach in the Better Way, but you need at least one of those. So this goes for if you do vendors, if you do brick and mortar, anything that you do with a physical product, make sure you have something in addition to that.
Yeah. It's almost like insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's like supplemental income plus insurance. I'm trying to think of what else it's like. It's like supplemental income plus insurance plus, I don't know. No, I don't know. Now, this was great. This was fabulous information. So it's an update from when we did this, a couple of years ago. Some things are still the same. Some things have really changed. Do you think that like in today's economy, people just have to be a little more, disciplined in terms of like making sure that not only in addition to going to shows, but that you do have a social media presence and you are like telling people when you're coming back to their town, like, are those things some of the changes like overall?
Yeah. You just have to be more agile and more aware of like current marketing things, because what, even 5 years ago was okay isn't any, that's just not enough. If this is what is sustaining you for the foreseeable future, if this is what your business and this is what is providing, then you just need to, it's age-old advice of making sure that all of your eggs aren't in one basket. You're being diversified. You have multiple ways to bring in income. And that's just, I think, what we've learned even more than anything in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Perfect. No, thank you so much. And so if you were listening today and you're like, okay, this was phenomenal, and you know someone who goes to, vendor events, vendor shows, would you forward this on to them if this could be helpful? If you know someone who has a brick and mortar in town and you know that they were thinking about doing a vendor event, forward this to them if you would, and send me a DM and let me know how beautiful you think Nell is and how knowledgeable she is. And I will make sure that she sees all of those great comments about her. So Nell, we're grateful for your knowledge. I'm just so grateful to have you as my director of marketing here at Team Allwood. So thank you. And thanks for being willing to do a podcast episode with me. It was way more fun than me just rambling by myself. So, all right, friends, go sign up for the betterwayprogram.com to be notified when we do launch the program again. And until next week, be blessed. Bye-bye. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you come back for every episode and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Every time I see you guys post about it on Instagram or Facebook or something, it just makes me do a little happy. So thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you never want to miss an episode. So you can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other podcasting places and subscribe each week so that every week you get the new episode when it releases. So just know that I love bringing you relevant content. I love bringing you great guests. And one of the ways you can help us here at Team Allwood is by leaving the podcast a review. So if you have just a second to do that, would you go over and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show? Thank you again. You're amazing. I'm honored to be here. Until next week. Bye-bye.